First of all, it's nice to hear a familiar accent.
Yeah,
Usually, I got to speak a little slower or smack the captions button, so people have
yeah,
got some some like subtitles to hear what I'm saying. But mate, it's a pleasure.
yeah.
You know,
Pleasure's mine.
fellow nerd of the barbell, fellow nerd of training systems. I love it, mate. I love talking to people that got the bitten by the bug.
Yeah, yeah.
Many moons ago, and I guess we're gonna start there. Why training?
Uh, I think for me, it was like, it was the culture in terms of, you grew up watching WWE or WWF at the time. You grew up seeing that. You grew up watching Schwarzenegger movies or, Stallone and all that sort of stuff and it's bigger guys. And yeah, you just sort of get drawn to it.
Mm,
That was at least for me, drawn to that bigger, like Lord than life sort of look.
mm.
And then with Strongman, I just sort of fell into it. Like I'd always watched it at Christmas. And then one of the guys I know ran a contest. I went to watch it. I'm like, man, this is actually something that you can do locally. And then, yeah, started doing it, and it just took off. And it was, I mean, crazy. I've been involved in Strongman for almost 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's definitely one of those things that is so impressive. It doesn't matter whether you like fitness or you don't, right? If you just watch a strongman competition, you're like, holy shit, this is
yeah,
fucking rad. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that is, but they're picking up and running with it, or they're
yeah,
putting it on
yeah,
this thing, or they're flicking it over this, or they're pulling a car, right? And you're like,
yeah.
oh, that's a truck. Why is a man or a woman attached to it? And you're like, wait, hold on a minute. Why are they walking
Yeah,
with it?
yeah.
It's
That's
so
it.
impressive.
Yeah, the visual element of it, in my opinion, just makes it so much more than lifting weights.
Mm,
Like, you get powerlifters who are very, very impressive at what they do, massive weights lifted, all that sort of stuff. But the visual element is just so different with strongman.
mm.
And it's so important as well. Like that's what makes it a spectacle.
For sure. It really isn't entertainment,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people go we used to go to the bloody Coliseum and watch gladiators, right?
Yeah.
We do the same thing now, but we just see big people throw big dumbbells above their head, right?
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
deadlift over 500 kilos, which is absolutely fucked up.
Yeah. It's a little bit crazy to put it mildly.
Mm, mm. Did you grow up with like any interest in the Highland Games or anything like that, or was it just purely
Not really.
strongman?
We like yeah, like I went to them here and there, like, being from Scotland, we went and we watched stuff,
Mm,
but never never had any aspiration of actually doing it.
mm,
Like my background sporting wise growing up was hiking and skiing.
mm.
That was like the story, being on a mountain bike. Like we were an active family and that was the stuff we did. Like my dad never lifted weights. Started going to the gym, later in life. But yeah, in terms of getting into the sport through that was not even the same planet.
Mm. Wow, it's fascinating. Like, obviously, Highland Games, I'm going to see on telly. I'm not going to see it in the middle of Manchester City. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, that's not,
yeah,
it's not going to frigging happen. But like,
yeah,
I think, um, I think it's such a great start for people to get involved. I
yeah,
think the aspect of like blending history into like, oh, we can kind of still do this in modern times. And then you're like,
yes,
oh, you can tell like Norse mythology in there and start spinning stories and tales. And
yeah.
I think it's really encapsulating for younger minds, right? And you're like,
Oh
why
yeah,
don't we
100%
tell
agree.
stories of this, right? Rather than bloody Cristiano Ronaldo going to Saudi Arabia to make more bucks. I was like, nobody
Yeah,
gives a fuck about that. Let's be honest.
yeah, yeah,
Let's tell them about these people.
yeah. I mean, I think it's culture as well. I mean, like I know, like a lot of Eastern European and
Mm,
stuff like that. Those more Baltic countries have a lot more um admiration and like they just revere strength,
mm,
whereas UK um and stateside with strongman and strength sports, they're not that big, but like obviously you've got the strength side of stuff of American football, hockey, basketball, all that sort of stuff. But I think in the UK it's like football and rugby, like soccer and rugby. That's it. You know,
mm.
it's like that's our things, and then golf. There's not really
God,
much in the way of physical, you know, physical strength based sports, which I think there used to be, and then it just died off with whatever reason. I'm not sure. I wish I knew the complete reason because you can sit and guess all you want, but just I just don't think it was popular, and that's what sort of ruined it in the UK and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? And I regularly compare the two stateside and obviously UK where we're from, right? And you're like, or Europe as a whole.
Yeah,
And most of the sports are a little bit more endurance based when you get to Europe and the UK, right? With you got to last 90 minutes, you got to last 80 minutes, or even a half, you got to last 45 or 40 minutes. It's still a long time of working out, right? And then when you go
yeah,
over to the States, you got basketball, you got baseball, and you got American football, and
yeah,
everything is power, strength, speed, right? And the difference between training for that, right? Like growing
yeah,
up, what you're going to do, or you go for a run to train. I was like, well, okay, well, working a little bit more of the endurance side there. You're like, it's not, it is like
yeah,
strength and power is not necessarily like endeared at all. It's just kind of pushed aside back home. And it
yeah,
doesn't make much
yeah,
sense because I mean, I say this all the time, right? I played rugby union and I say this all the time. If states really wanted to, if America really, really wanted to, they would win every World Cup in rugby union because they got the training systems behind it. I'm in New Zealand right now, and we're trying to build the training systems up because they got a big talent pool here, right? You got the Southeast Pacific, and that's mega. But like the stateside,
yeah,
have got the training for it. You get a kid in at 12, 11, right, and you nurture them, and you don't kick the shit
yeah,
out of them. But you just nurture them until they're 21. They're going to be a
yeah.
freak, man.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, in terms of the sports over here, like basketball is more endurance for sure, but in terms of like American football, it's start stop.
Yeah.
Baseball, same deal. Like, how hard can you hit that thing, type of thing. That's it. It's a lot more, like you said, it's a lot more power based. Whereas UK, it's all endurance for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. Like rugby obviously has a power element, but it's much more go go go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, like rugby, you've got to be strong, you've got to be powerful, you've got to be fast, but you still got to go for a prolonged period of time, right? There may be a game that you're not stopping for 10 to 20 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You're going to give maximal strength for that long? Good luck, pal. That's not
No.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Like
No.
it's
No.
just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you got a specific amount of subs. It's not just rotating all the time.
Yeah.
Like what's the roster in American football? It's like 50 odd players. Like it's mind blowing.
So they've a lot. I mean, it's 11. It's 11 and 11 when they are on the field.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, the actual size of the teams they're big.
Mm. Oh, you there?
You hear me?
Ah, we got you.
Okay.
Who'd have known like talking to someone on the other side of the world would be so difficult?
I know. That's what I just got things saying like your internet's unstable. I'm like, well, it's never been unstable till right now. So
I'm literally in fucking Middle Earth, mate, so I wouldn't worry about it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Don't worry about it. So then you got involved with Cererbus.
Yeah. So I knew one of the first sponsored athletes, and then being in the States, uh, got reached out to and said, "Hey, do you want to be a sponsored athlete?" Like, yeah, sure, of course. And then it just turned into, do you want to try and sell some stuff? Like, oh, okay, we can do that. And then it just started rolling, and then started realizing what it could be, and I just started pushing more and more and more. And
Mm.
then it is what it is now. We're still trying to push and become even more, you know.
Where do you want to take the sport of strongman? Do you think it's always going to be a niche thing, or would you like more people to get involved in it?
I think it's hard to say because obviously over here we have a lot more people involved in the sport stateside than we do in the UK, like vastly more.
Mm.
Um, I do want to see it become more um, like mainstream friendly, but at the same time, like I feel you need to be careful with it because it can lose its allure easily, if that makes sense. It's like you lose its sense of like how different it is. Um, I think we're on a really good track right now to keeping it growing, and
Mm.
I think this track is probably the right one. I think you need to be careful. If it goes to 100 straight like too fast, then it loses its specialness, and it becomes harder to manage. I think that if it's done and grown properly, then everyone benefits. Um,
Yeah, me too, man. Like I,
it's hard. It's hard to say where I want to go. I mean, like obviously, I want to be the biggest sport and the most popular. And top guys are making millions of dollars, like football players and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, you know, like we were just talking about, like you've got guys in the NFL who are making $1 million contracts.
mm,
But how many people are going to watch a game
mm,
every week? It's like, you go to Gillette Stadium where the Patriots played down the road here, and I think capacity is like 60, 70,000 people. You know, it's a massive stadium.
there's a lot of people.
And it's like and then plus add in everyone watching at home. You've got the NFL package on ESPN or whatever it is.
Mm,
Whatever channel, and it's like the amount of money being generated from these different revenue sources for that sport is astronomical. You
mm.
don't have that in strength sports, so it's hard to say where can it go. I think top level can get a lot better in terms of paydays and stuff like that, but you know you're looking at, I mean, how many, I don't know, 30 or 40 teams, probably 30 teams. And then if you've got a raw, I mean, God knows what the payroll is per team. 100 million a year, 150 million a year. Who knows? It's like there's just not that level of cash isn't in the sport.
Mm.
It's
Where do
hard.
you
It's hard.
where do you think the cap is of performance in strongman? Right. So, for example, from an average Joe, right, they're going to look at it and be like, "That's impossible. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do that." And then obviously people go out and do it, right? And you're like, "Well, it is possible." There you go. Boom. We've
Yeah,
just shown it. Do you think we're going to find the cap? I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, granted, but do you think we're going to find a cap?
I think it's really hard to say because every time you think, like you said, every time you think there's a cap, the limit gets pushed.
Someone breaks it, yeah.
It's like if you look at Eddie's 500 kilo versus Thor's 501 or whatever it was, it's like vastly different lifts in
Mm,
terms of difficulty and execution and all that sort of stuff. And then you look at stuff where back of the Arnold Classic. I'm trying to think years, like probably 2015, 2016, 2017 sort of time. Like they had that yoke, and like the first yoke was like 1,300 pounds, and it's like everyone's like, holy shit, that's not going to happen. And then guys are doing it, and then they're doing a couple of 100 pounds more than that, and then the level keeps getting pushed. The problem is the more you push it, the higher chance of injury, and that's what you start seeing. Like at the Arnold, you were seeing more injuries happen because it was such a heavy contest for every single event. Like every event was damn near a max lift in some way, shape, or form. Like okay, log, you got 460 pound or 450 pound log, 4 reps. Okay, then we're going to a max deadlift, and then it's like okay, now we're going to run 1,000 pound frame. Then you got Husafel stone. Oh, it's 400 pounds, but it's max distance now. And then you got whatever.
mm,
So I think the more I think if you're really gonna test it and test the true limit, it can't be in a contest environment, or okay, it can't be in at least a multi-event contest. Like to actually truly figure out where the limit is, it has to be an exhibition type of deal,
yeah, I
or a
agree.
one, like, hey, this is a one lift contest, the world deadlift championships, or world log championships, that type of stuff. Where it's like, okay, we're doing one lift. Problem is, when you get into these things, everyone wants to watch it.
Mm,
So then when it's actually being watched live, now the rest times and other variables that can be controlled in a training environment now are out of your control, because like, oh, we've got a 15,000 person crowd. They don't want to be waiting 15-20 minutes when you rest for your next attempt. Like, they want you going in another 10 minutes, if
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's a hard thing to figure it out.
Mm.
I don't think we'll figure out the limit for a while, honestly. Um, I'm not sure if we ever will, because at the time, you always think there's a limit, and then someone goes and breaks, and you're like, oh, okay,
Okay. Yeah.
what's next?
I agree, man. Like, I mean, you kind of look at sport as a whole thing, right? And you're like, we cannot keep progressing. Physically, we cannot keep progressing, right? And we're just going to throw that hypothesis out there. And yet, in every aspect, Kipchoge, fucking sub two marathon, you're like, no, you wouldn't even think sub bloody three. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You've ran 26.2 miles in under 2 hours. And then you're
yeah,
like, 500 kilos, are you having a frigging laugh? Nah, not a
yeah,
chance. And then 501. And then you're like, you could have pulled 510. You're like, wait, hold
yeah,
on a minute. Where is the limit here?
yeah,
And then you see CrossFitters doing everything. You're like, wait, how are you able to flush lactate that quickly without breaking
yeah,
down?
yeah,
And it's really, really fascinating to watch as somebody within the industry, right? Because you're like
yeah,
this weird balance between physicality and psychology of like,
yeah.
all right, well, what is the true test here, and how do we get there? Like, they could be
And that's
physically capped out, but then mentally just
yeah.
on another level, and they're
I
able to
think, and
pull
that's the
something
thing. I,
out.
I think a lot of the time, like, you think that you can't go any further, and it's like it's the mentality side of it, I think, is what really caps it.
Mm.
Like, as soon as you have doubts start creeping in, and it's like, you know what? No one's ever done this before. Can I do it? That's where then you start having those sort of shutdowns. Like, if it's a case of you going into it, you're like, nope, I can do this. Then I think it changes things. But there's not many of us that can really go into something with that level of pure, unadulterated
Mm.
belief. You know, if we're honest, like, I don't think many, like, top athletes. You know, many of them, many of them say, "Oh yeah, I completely believe in myself," but realistically, you probably don't.
Mm.
Something nice to say for a camera. You know,
Everybody's got
but
self-doubt, man. No matter how good you are, right?
exactly,
Everybody's thinking maybe this is the one that I fail.
exactly. And I think, like, if I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if there is a limit. I really don't know, and it's something I've been going back and forth with for a while. Like,
Mm.
I just don't know, because, like they said, I mean, some of the people, like, the things that people are doing is just, it's not supposed to be happening,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it does. You know.
Yeah, I think about the same thing in terms of weightlifting, right? Like,
Mhm.
ollie lifting. It's kind of my poison of choice in the strength realm, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean 227 snatch from fucking Lasher, and he can jump a 55-inch box? What do you
Yeah,
mean? Like, the dude weighs like 150, 160 kilo, and he's able to move? Like,
yeah,
hold on. And you're like, are we gonna see someone total 500 kilos in two friggin' lifts? And it's like everyone's like, no, 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 no way, no way. But we said no way with 500, and then Eddie added what 30 something kilos to the world record or something
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. 30 kilos for that lift. Yeah,
That's fucked
yeah.
up.
You know.
And then they just blow it out the water. You're like, whoa, okay, well, we all have to catch up now.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's the Roger Bannister effect, isn't it? Really, he
yeah,
runs it, and then what is it? Like over 10,000 people have run a sub 4 minute mile, me not
yeah,
included. Of
yeah,
course. You can barely
yeah.
run a mile, never
Yeah.
mind sub 4 minutes. Um,
That's the thing. It's like, it's exactly that. As soon as somebody does it, you're like, oh shit, it's possible.
mm,
Why can't I do it then? I think that's completely it. I think, like, even something like, if someone does 500 kilo, they're like, okay, if you did 500, why is 505 not doable?
mm,
It's 10 pounds, or yeah, it's 11 pounds or something like that.
mm.
£11, 5 kilos. It's like it's not much,
Mm.
in this in a crazy way to put it. I mean, at that top level, it's an extra, 1%. It's a hell of a lot for 1%, but it's still doable,
Oh, for
which is the
sure.
sort of crazy thing.
Because you always look back on your training cycle, right? And even your mentality and be
Mm.
like, I could have done something slightly better here. And then you pose that question of like, oh, well, if I did that slightly better, would I get 1% or would I get 2?
Exactly.
And you're like, oh shit, where is my potential? And it's this weird,
Mm-hmm.
kind of balance between the two. And I
Yeah.
think the mindset of an athlete is a fascinating place.
Oh, massively. Yeah.
It pretty much basically is a mental illness that we all like to watch. Because
Yeah.
you've got
You're
to
not
put
wrong there, honestly.
you go to some fucking odd places, man.
Yeah.
And but I think it's therapeutic. I think it's like some sort of meditation. It's I
No, I
think
agree with you. Yeah.
we all need to experience it in some way, whether it's like, I don't know, a painter and they go
Mhm.
to like some sort of different realm, like this,
Yeah.
what do they call it? A flow state,
Yeah.
right? And they're just doing their thing, man.
Mhm.
Us with training, then with painting, somebody with, I don't know, astrophysics or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just they are just doing their thing in the zone
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
adopting a completely different mentality. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. No, I think you're completely right there as well. Like, the mentality side of stuff is. I mean, I think the mentality side is ever evolving as well.
Mm.
I think that's the thing. Like, as an athlete, you look at it and you're like, okay, you know, this is where my mentality is now. And then, in 2 years, you look back and oh, well, that was completely wrong mentality. Like, I've grown so much in hell, even a year, And that's the thing. It's like, I think it's ever evolving. And I think that's why the limit keeps being pushed,
Mm.
because it's not like you're just trying to start at the same base plate or the same starting point every single time. Like, something's always different. There's always a variable which
Mm.
can change things drastically for, better or worse.
Yeah, for sure. It's this organic moving chess, right? That just
Yeah.
constantly just moves. It's like the bloody staircase in Harry Potter that's just always
Yeah.
flicking around, taking you to the wrong bloody dom.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh shit, okay, that needs to change again, and then that needs to come back, and I need to blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and then not even involving bloody sleep and food, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
The amount of times people come in and into the gym, just GPP, just trying to do some standard fitness. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They're like, oh, I feel like I'm detraining, I'm getting this, I'm getting banged up or whatever. And I'm like, dude, like, you just had a newborn kid.
Yeah.
Like, your sleep is fucking out the
Yeah.
window. You're like,
I apologize for the dog. Postman's outside.
no, don't apologize.
Give
Pet
me that.
friendly, man.
Hey,
Bring him in.
he'll go. You gotta be done in a minute.
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Come
I
here.
used to have my cat jumping on, and she would literally just like flick me in the face with her
Yeah.
tail. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, can you just
Yeah.
give me a minute?
I actually completely forgot about the damn postman.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I got I got a question though. Strongman in kids. Like, you can take the term kids to whatever age group. I'm not obviously not talking about like 3-year-olds,
Yeah.
5-year-olds, right? Let's just play. Just go out and fucking move around. Just play some sport or play at the end of the day,
Yeah.
But I love the age group of 12 to 18. And
Yeah.
in terms of strength and conditioning, I fucking love that. If they've got
Yeah.
a juvenile detention order, even better. Like, I really like the messed up kids, as you're going to be able to relate with from back home, is a weird
Yeah.
place sometimes, and it kept us off the street at the end of the day.
Give me 2 seconds.
No, that's all right.
Hey, come here. Come here. In. Get in there. Stop. God. Okay. Um.
Oh,
So basically, the question is like, sounds like, where, like, is it beneficial for them?
yeah, beneficial. A lot of people is going to throw this bloody buzzword out there of safety, right? we're only just getting over the bloody lifting weights in kids. Never mind frigging strongman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, this. I mean, I've seen young um like kid contests here. Like, and I'm talking like 8, 9 type of deal. I mean, they used to have an America's Strongest Teen and stuff like that. I think they still do actually. Um, I think it comes down to really the implementation of it. Realistically, if if it's done right, I don't think it's damaging. It's when you have something where it's like, like the technique and is all over the place, using too heavy weights, all that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, it's been documented, the stuff with like, doesn't cause stunted growth and all that sort of stuff. So I think it comes down to realistically where you're at. Like, I think if you're implementing it, it should be a lot more rep based and a lot more moving based, cardio based. Not running a 500 kilo yoke. You know what I mean? Like that type of deal. It needs to be like, okay, well, you're going to use maybe even like a body weight percentage of body weight or something like that. I don't know if that's maybe the way to do it. Or if you're gonna run yoke and it's going to be 100% your body weight. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's beneficial. I think lifting weights is beneficial. I think, you know, we get, I think we get to the point of not implementing things because of like the societal norm. It's not normal in society to do some of these things. And it's this whole thing of like, oh well, if it's not normal, it shouldn't be happening for children, shouldn't like other people shouldn't be doing it, yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, I feel that, you know, when you look at other sports, like Pee Wee football over here, is it really normal to have, 5-year-old kids running into each other with helmets and tackling each other?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, probably not. Is there a concussion risk? Yeah, but I mean, I feel like there's a risk with anything.
Mm.
So I think it's a very highly debated topic, and I'm not really sure personally how to implement it. But I think with just sports in general, being able to have a full diversity of sports actually just improves the athlete. Like as soon as you specialize, then you very much limit yourself.
I couldn't
Like
agree more.
6 or 7 or 8, you're doing your athlete or your child a disservice, in my opinion.
No, no, no. I could not agree more, man. I could not agree more. And I swam as a kid, right? So
Yeah,
I basically looked at a fucking black line for years, pretty much.
yeah,
7 years like competing through swimming and that. And
yeah,
I've coached a lot of swimmers through S&C and stuff like that. And
yeah,
dude, like they're incredible
yeah,
athletes in the water. You take them out of the water and the fish dies. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's like, how do we bulletproof essentially these kids? How do
yeah,
we make them harder to kill? I know it sounds so like, extreme, but at the
yeah,
end of the day, that's what we are. We're just kind of tissue, and
yeah.
bones and blood and all that. And it's like, no, no, no. How do we just make this a little bit more of a robust thing?
Yeah,
You know?
to make a person more resilient overall. I think, and it comes down to you know what we do on a daily basis. Like, I mean, it's heavily documented. You know, triathletes who are 30 and 70 versus like a sedentary person. Like the muscle mass and the endurance and everything is through the roof.
Mm,
Bone structure, all that sort of stuff.
mm,
So I think the activity, and realistically, I don't think it really matters what the activity is. It has to be some sort of weight bearing activity. It might, and I think that's one of the big things is having some sort of weight bearing in there.
mm,
So if you're an endurance athlete, having a form of weight training is very very beneficial. But not having that is when the problems occur, in my opinion. If you're mobile and you're functional and you can lift something and all that sort of stuff, that's when you actually become more resilient. You don't have to sort of battle against something, so to speak.
mm.
That's when you just sort of shrivel up, I think.
Yeah, I agree, man. You need to. I think endurance is great, and obviously it's great in older years.
Yeah.
You know, walking, swimming, running, cycling, whatever. Even if you want to do it in younger years, whatever floats your boat, right?
Yeah.
Pick your poison. But I think we need to feel some sort of resistance
Yeah.
for the body and the mind.
Hmm.
You know, I think it's that initial strain of like, oh, something's trying to break me. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, like I think we need that, especially as young developing human beings, right? Male and female, it doesn't matter. Like I think we need that resistance. And obviously we can play the cards of like bone density and
Yeah.
tensile strength of ligament and tendon. Yeah, yeah, whatever. That's great. That needs to be ticked off anyway, right?
Yeah.
But that resistance aspect of like, no, you gotta fight this bitch because it's gonna try and fucking nail you to the ground, you
I
know?
think what it comes down to in terms of the sport, it's not so much what sport it is. I think it's what sort of catches your eye and what makes you want to do it. Like, okay, like, there's kids who, they'll play football and they'll lift weights in a weight room, but they don't want to go and run with a sandbag or lift a stone or whatever. That's not what their bag is. And I think that's what it comes down to is like, if there's a sport that sort of sets you on fire type of thing, sets your soul on fire, I think that's what you then sort of chase.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. But I think as a kid, having multiple of them is the way to go.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to learn the big three, right? And
Yeah.
SBD. I think everybody needs to learn some sort of the power movements in weightlifting. You know,
Yeah.
even if it's just a frigging hang power clean and you forget about the snatch, I would be a
Yeah.
bit insulted, but whatever, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I think people need to learn some odd object stuff, man. You know,
Yeah.
carry something, push a sled,
Yeah.
pull a sled,
Yeah.
like, get on a yoke, empty bloody
Yeah.
yoke, farmer's carry, play around with a sandbag, squat it, put it on your shoulder and that. And we need to go back to more of the old Soviet Union style of S&C, that base
Yeah.
pyramid, pyramid's only as tall as it is wide, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And implement that throughout high school, man. As soon as you come
Yeah.
into high school, it's going to be like body weight training. You might be bored if you've already been training beforehand. Your parents or
Yeah.
guardians might have put you through that mint, but like just slowly ramp it up rather than like you played sport, you got the shit kicked out of you, you got broken, you got fat during uni or college, and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh shit, I don't want diabetes. Oh cool, let's go back to the gym. You don't know what you're doing. You get
Yeah.
banged up again, you leave.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Let's think about it with a little bit of a longer approach, right? There's
Yeah.
like people
Yeah.
are going to live for 80, 90, 100 years. Let's think
Exactly.
about it like that.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree any more than that. Definitely.
What I got one question though. What are the three words you tell your younger self?
Don't lose faith, I think.
Oof.
Just like, when shit's going bad or you're struggling with whatever, be it, personal life, family life, work, sport, just keep on keeping on. I
Mm.
think that's the biggest thing. Like, don't quit. Keep the faith that you're on the right path and then just keep walking that road.
It's powerful, man.
I think it's something that everyone needs to remember. Like, if you believe in something, then work for it and don't sort of waver.
Mm.
You know, I think in terms of like society these days, everything's so accessible.
Mm.
In terms of like it's easy to be like, oh, you know what, I suck at this. I'm going to go try something else.
Mm.
Well, how you just let yourself suck at it for a little while.
Mm.
Let yourself suck at it and just you know see where it goes. Like maybe it's just a bad time. It's a bad period of time, and you just need to just let it happen because you like pressure makes diamonds and all that sort of stuff. Like the more like if it sucks, hey, if it sucks, then just let it suck.
Mm.
I don't think it has to be a case of, oh, well, I suck at this, I'm going to quit. Like no, you can let it just let it ride out. I think that's the
Mm.
biggest thing, and just keep going. And then if you give it 3 years and it's not going anywhere, then maybe you reassess it then. But don't just get rid of something a weekend. I think that goes for everything. I think relationships for one of the biggest problems when it comes to like societal accessibility these days. I think that,
Yeah.
and then hobbies like give it one try. And like, I don't really, it's not really for me. I'm like,
Mm.
are you sure? Or is this because you're not good at it yet?
Mm.
So that's my take. Of
Mate, I appreciate that so much, man.
course, my pleasure.
I'll have to come do some strongman.
Sounds good, man. Just whenever you're here, I'm in
East
Boston.
East
Come
Coast,
visit.
man. Boston's always been fucking high up on my list. Well,
Yeah,
anywhere in the States, to be honest, man. Like I said, I'm
yeah,
fascinated, but Boston, I like the accent and I like the little bit of the grit in the stride and the step, People
yeah.
got a bit of swag going on. I like that.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Mate, I
definitely.
love it. I'll speak to you soon, man. Appreciate it a
Sounds good.
lot.
Appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye, everybody.